Hey everyone, Psychopath1 here. I'm gonna be re-reviewing this. This is my re-review, of course, right now. Um, Splatterhouse, the 2010 remake. Um, I reviewed this once, gave it a high score, and I'm still gonna give it that same score because I really find nothing wrong with it. I haven't found that many glitches in it. I think I found like two, and they weren't game breaking or anything. Um, this game got a lot of shit when it came out, and I don't see why. Um, I feel this is a lot better game than, um, let's say, hmm, there's a lot of. This game is better than a lot of games that came out in 2010. Um, it's definitely better than the Final Fantasy games recently, and I grew up on the Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy VII is a fan favorite of everybody's, but it's been forever since I played it. Um, but this is better than the other Final Fantasy games, the newer ones, like 14, I think they're on. Um, this is also better than, I hate to say it because I'm such a big fan of the series, it is better than Silent Hill Homecoming. There, I said it. And I won't be reviewing that game anytime soon because the farther into the game I got, the more I was like, what's. I already know what the reward is gonna be. And I checked out the endings and everything. It's all the same stuff. It's a twist you can see coming a mile away. Let's put it that way for those who haven't seen the ending. But this game rocks. People criticize the ending as well. Well, what do you expect? They were going at it for a potential sequel to be made. Um, and it's a remake. So granted, you're going to have some of the same things from the original game. Um, but what it, there's very little this game gets wrong. The the only thing wrong I can say is probably the glitches. There's like only two glitches, and I think that's the only part they got wrong. The time limit, on the other hand, that was another wrong thing, but it didn't bother me too much because the time limit was at least fair until you got up to about the 10th mission. There are 12 missions, or phases as they are called in this game. So I'm going to try to go through each phase as quickly as possible. Start off with the first phase, Satan's Mask. Spelled like masquerade, by the way. Excuse me, just little indigestion right there. Sorry for the gross out moment. Um, it starts off, we see this young man, couldn't be no more than 20, 22. Um, Listen to me, I'm looking for age within a video game character. But anyways, uh, he's laying in a pool of his own blood. His guts are falling out, and he looks to his right, and he ends up seeing this mask, and it tells him, uh, he took your girl, Rick. Dr. Henry West took your girl, and the only thing you have left is your soul, and that belongs to me. And then he ends up saying, what am I? Well, let's just say I'm God. Well, at least the only God that's listening right now. And he pretty much makes a deal with Rick. You kill as many things as there possibly can be, uh, and help me get my revenge on Dr. Henry West, and I'll make sure that Jenny, or Rick's girlfriend, ends up coming back to him. So that's the deal. Pretty simple game. Beat 'em up, shock style. Monsters come at you from all angles. The gore is excellent. The music is badass, including the licensed soundtrack. Um, Five Finger Death Punch, they've got the best song on this game. Headlong into Monsters is a pretty cool song. Um, and uh, it starts up, he's in beast mode pretty much, or mask mode as it's called. Gonna put the game down for a minute. Um, he's pretty much hulking beast. He's got claws on his arms, and I'm just like, wow, this is starting up real fast. And he's slicing monsters left and right, picking them up, uh, sucking the blood from them to get his energy back, uh, causing earthquakes, and I'm like, wow, this is badass. But you don't get to use that mode very much until you upgraded it all the way. So, um, then a cutscene happens, and the mask tells him, you never forget your first kill. And that's when you know what kind of game you're getting into. You're getting into a fun B-movie shock style game uh, with some really dark humor in it. The mask is voiced by Jim Cummings. Um, Most people might remember him as a Winnie the Pooh, uh, or he also played in the Goof Troop, and he played Tigger. And not a whole lot of people remember this, but if you grew up in the 90s, you'll remember this show. Cat Dog. He played both cat and dog. And that to me is just amazing because you're hearing your childhood cartoon voice being saying all these nasty, gruesome, perverse type of jokes, and you're just like, wow, my childhood is a little bit scarred right now. So, anyways, Rick ends up going through the mansion, going through rooms looking for clues on where to find Jenny. He ends up in pretty much, um, I forget what the rooms are called. Pretty much, it's a hallway. That's the best way to put it. And there's a door to his right that he just came in, and then there's a door right in front of him, and he gets surrounded by a bunch of monsters. They've got spikes on their back, and they've got sharp teeth, and they've got weird looking heads, like their heads are literally built into their bodies. And the the splatter kills in this, that's what they're called, splatter kills, are gruesome and beautiful. I love them. Um, my favorite one, I'm going to spoil one of the splatter kills, but Rick pretty much takes his both his hands, puts it into the monster's mouth, rips it open, and then pulls out the lungs. And blood starts spraying all over the screen, and I'm like, woo! What a way to kill a monster. It's bad enough that you rip its head off by mouth, but to go at it even more and grab the lungs out of it, and I'm like, wow, that's badass. And if you grew up on the Splatterhouse original games, they come bundled with this game. If you bought it new, it came with a code for an exclusive DLC Survival Arena, and it came with an unlock code to unlock all the games at the start of the game. So yeah, I didn't get the game new. I got it used. Thanks, Uncle. You've helped me out a lot with getting games. My uncle, love you. Um, Made me look kind of like a gangster, which I'm far from a gangster, man. Um, he got me this from Best Buy for $14, and it is well worth it to me. Um, it lives up to its title, Splatterhouse. So, anyways, Rick ends up going into the mansion, more into the mansion, and he ends up getting his arm ripped off. And I'm like, ooh, And then he ends up crying and everything, and the monster ends up going away, ends up crashing into a wall, and Rick's like, "Ah, oh, my arm! Ah, ah!" And then the mask says this great line, um, "Jesus, Rick, get it together. You lose your arm and you're crying like a schoolgirl. Please, for a dick, you are such a pussy." And I laughed out loud at that. And I laugh out loud to this day while playing it. And I've had this game since 2013. So 2 years I've had this game, and I replay it as much as possible. I'm always finding something new in this game. I collected all the pictures, but I have not collected all of the journal entries. And I've also collected all the phonograph things from the Journal of Dr. Henry West, like the record players. Audiophile was the trophy. Oh, might as well open it up to show you guys who haven't gotten a chance to pick this bad boy up. It comes with a very, very, very small instruction manual. See how thin that thing is? Not even really much of a manual, but badass cover. Badass cover for the instruction booklet. Don't know if you can see it, but there is Rick's girlfriend Jenny. There's the Splatterhouse or West Mansion. There's Rick looking all badass. He looks like the Splatterhouse 3 Rick more than he does the regular Rick from, like, the beefed up Rick from the first 2 games. It says, "Kill them all. Blood is power. Kill monsters to collect blood, and then use that blood to buy more moves to kill even more monsters." That's pretty much the upgrade system. You get blood, and blood is your currency. Menu controls, the mask is calling, like a little prologue. There's your characters. There's what Rick looks like without the mask. So we finally get to see that. We didn't really get to see him without the mask in the original games. There's Jenny. There's Henry West. Of course, it's a play on the name from Reanimator, Dr. Herbert West. And there, right there, is the terror mask. You can pause the video if you want to read the info for it. There's the first level, Satan's mask, showing the blades right there. And for those who haven't played the game, and you're playing a new game, and you just started, here is the button combination if you're playing the PS3 version. L1 and circle is the blood siphon. There you go. It gives you your health back, and it doesn't tell you until you're halfway through the first level, and I'm like, really? I found that out from the beginning. But the weird thing is, you can't use it until halfway through the first level, so you're gonna need to make sure not to get hit too much. So I suggest playing it on either Coward, or if not Coward, try it on normal first, and if it's too difficult, try it on Coward. That's what I can say. I played it on Coward, and then I'm now gonna end up playing it on Brutal eventually. See if anything's different. From what I'm told, it's just a harder game, and you get more story a little bit with the journal entries. But anyways, after Stage 1 Satan's Mask, or Phase 1, we get into the first boss level, the Dolled Up Blood. Rick is pretty much bashing the demons. He's not crawling, but coming out of a passageway, and he comes out of an Iron Maiden. those things with the spikes that open up and pretty much close down on a person. The Iron Maiden. Not the rock band, but the actual physical Iron Maiden. And he finds these monsters feasting on some flesh on a bed. They're having a good old feast. And after you've killed them and everything, another doorway opens up. And here's how you grab, by the way. Forgot to mention this. Circle grabs, and if you have the upgrade available, you can actually dismember the monsters by taking off their arms. And you can use the arms as weapons. It's that kind of game. Adding insult to injury. And so on. The game gets going, and I'm going to try to fast forward through each of the levels as fast as possible. You end up going through a side-scrolling section, and I'm just like, wow, pretty much an HD version of the original game. You're going from side to side trying to make it to the end of the level, and you get all of the weapons and stuff. You get a meat cleaver, you get a 2x4, you get a baseball bat, other ones. You get so many good weapons in this game. It's hard to believe that something as simple as a beat 'em up can have this much story, but not focus so much on the story that it's so in your face, like, here's the story, here's the story, here's the story. Sorry about the stupid train. Live close to the train tracks. What can I say? Are you done, train? Okay. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. The gore is excellent, the gameplay is excellent, and then we end up getting a poltergeist type of thing coming, throwing bookcases at us, and then we make it to the end of the hallway. Like I said, I'm fast forwarding. We make it to the end of the hallway, and right there is an open door with a doll looking right at you, and Rick ends up saying, "Hey, wait, what's this? It's just a..." And then the mask ends up saying, "Look out, Rick." And Rick's like, "What? It's just a..." And then the mask interrupts him and says, "Doll? Is that what you were gonna say?" And the doll ends up growing into this huge monster, and the mask is like, "Alright, you raggedy little fucker, show us what you can do." And then it ends up growing into the big monster, and the mask is like, "Look what you did, me and your big mouth." And then the first boss battle begins. Now what you'll want to do is you'll want to attack the legs and just keep on beating the monster down, and he'll eventually end up breaking the first floor, and then you'll go on to the second part, and you'll want to watch the clock, because he's got a clock for an arm, and when he throws it, dodge, and then keep on beating the clock, and you'll end up getting down to the basement floor, and that's where you finish off the boss. And after that, Rick pulls out the head of the doll, and it goes, "Mama, Mama," and then Rick just crushes the head of the doll, and the mask says it literally like this: "I ain't your mama, asshole." And I'm just sitting there giggling like a lunatic and being like, "Oh, that's badass." Funny and badass all at the same time. By the end of the game, I was just dying from laughing so hard. The mask just really is a comic relief with this game, but at the same time, he provides clues about the story. We end up finding out about West, what he's doing, why he wants Jenny, he pretty much wants to make her his new wife, who ended up dying of something called cholera. I I think it's a made-up disease because I've never really heard of it. Cholera, it's in the game. It's supposed to be some kind of disease, deadly, that ends up eating away her flesh. So he ends up taking Jenny, trying to turn him into the wife, turn her into the wife. Sorry, got mixed up right there. And then we move into the third uh, phase, where it's pretty much an abandoned apartment complex, and we find out here that uh, Jenny and Rick live in New York, Arkham, New York. And I'm like, liking the look of New York, just not really liking the look of this particular level, because it's sort of bland looking. The first two levels were awesome, but the third level is looking a little bland. It's just really bright and kind of yellow colored. And at the end of this mission, I'm gonna just skip right through this mission because it's just beat 'em up. Oh, and you meet the Aegis. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's pretty much this tentacle monster. It makes the other monsters invisible, and what you'll want to do is you'll want to upgrade to a ram attack and just keep on mashing R1 and triangle until it's down to low health, and then do whatever you want. You can do the splatter kill, or you can just attack it and be done with it. So the Aegis is a bitch to fight in the game because it keeps disappearing, so you gotta keep on doing the ram attack. And then you gotta feed a hungry mouth called a Door Guardian. It's pretty much going to be the mouth of the Statue of Liberty the first time you see it. And you'll have to keep on feeding it monster after monster after monster until it opens up entirely and you can go through the mouth. And then you get to my personal favorite level, and many other people seem to say it's their favorite level too. So, people, I agree with you who love this game like me and happen to love this level. The Meat Factory, Phase 4. You pretty much go around a meat factory and there's grime and blood all over the walls. Monsters are coming from your left and right. We end up finding out the monsters are slaves to something called the Corrupted. You end up finding out the mask has known West for a really long time, for centuries, pretty much. And the mask happens to have been a slave of the Corrupted for years, and he pretty much destroyed civilizations, one civilization at a time. You meet pretty much another monster, kind of like the tentacle monster that ripped off Rick's arm in level 1. You end up meeting a new monster who's pretty much got this shown on the back. Let's see if you can get a good picture. Right there. None of these monsters really have names other than the bosses and the tentacle monster, I guess. I guess the monster with the tentacle as an arm is called the Tetra Demon. But there's that. And what you'll want to do is keep on ramming him. And people who are saying this is a button masher, play later on into the game. Play until level 4, and you'll realize this is not a button masher. You're going to need some skills to get through these levels. You're going to need to run, swerve, fight. Yeah, press the square button every now and then to get in the light attack. press the triangle button to do strong attacks, and when you get upgrades, you'll discover there are more moves to do. Like square, square, triangle does the no headroom, which is pretty much you're punching, and then you launch the monster up into the air, and you can keep on punching them with the square button, do the triangle moves, and just keep going, and do the pimp hands wrong. There's so many moves you can do in this game, and I hate how people keep saying it's a shallow button masher. It's a beat 'em up. The point of a beat 'em up is to have easy controls, and I feel this game has pretty easy controls. So, had to go on a little rant there. So, anyways, we get to the end of this level, and we meet my favorite Splatterhouse boss of all time. Gonna show him on the back. Both in the first game and this game, Biggie Man. He is probably my all-time favorite Splatterhouse boss, both in this game and in the original game. And when Rick and the Mask are getting ready to fight Biggie Man, Rick cracks his knuckles like this, and the Mask says, "Show him why we call it Splatterhouse." And we get this good old-fashioned fight, trying to stay alive. We're in a closed space, and we just gotta keep on wearing him down and wearing him down. Rips the chainsaw, because he's got, of course, 2 chainsaws for hands. Rips the first chainsaw hand off, and ends up shoving it into his back. And then you keep on hacking and slashing, and then finally you shove it right in his stomach, and end up pretty much splitting him in half, but we don't really see him get split in half. And then we end up talking more about Jenny, and Rick the Mask ends up saying, "You once told Jenny, this girl, that you'd love her until the end of the world. Well, the end of the world is coming, Rick. Time to prove your promise." And then it moves on to the 5th level, and here's where it starts to get real tough. The 5th level ends up being a bunch of dungeons. Not like a dungeon crawler or anything, so don't think that, but it's pretty much a bunch of dark dungeons, and you'll be doing a lot of jumping in this level. There's one part where you get to a bridge, and it's collapsing, and you gotta jump from one pillar to the next without falling or making any mistakes. And you're gonna want to keep on running, and then jump, and then the bridge will start to collapse some more, and hopefully you can make it to the end of the bridge without dying. I've been learning more and more about where to jump, where to not jump, where to run, where to not run. And it gets engraved into your mind after a while. So, we end up versing this giant worm. I don't know what else to call it. Is it a tentacle or is it a worm? I don't know. It could be a snake, but it's got pretty much a head within the head. And it's pretty much just a big mouth with 2 eyes on the side. And pretty much all you gotta do is stay away from the tongue and keep on bashing and bashing it when it comes down on the ground. So you've got that strategy. And then move on to the 6th mission, Beast with a Human Heart. The snake or worm ends up going down the ground, and then the ground breaks, and then goes in the Beast with a Human Heart. And this level, we end up going back into the mansion. We're deep underground of the mansion, and we see this heart just beating. Bump, bump, bump. And we discover the house is alive. Well, it's trying to live as a house can live. Yeah, here's where the story ends up getting over the top, and even though the game's over the top to begin with, so this level you're trying to discover where this heart came from and everything, and we get to verse a really badass boss. From what I know, it's not in any of the original Splatterhouse games. It's a giant ape looking like something out of... If King Kong ended up making out with a giant demon, you'd get this thing. It's like some fucked up experiment, and it's got needles on its back, and pretty much it's like the Biggie Man boss, except for it keeps on using its needle and fist to knock you back, and you're versing this thing on a platform, like a huge circular arena, and if you get too close to the edge, you're falling off. So, gotta be careful. And you've gotta hope and pray that you can get one of the needles off of the monster's back, and then keep on beating him over the head with it repeatedly, and then hopefully you can pull the arm back and shove the needle as far into the eye as possible. And then it's the end of the level, and Rick's like screaming for joy, like saying, "Ah, yeah, ah," and then the mask says, "Feels good, don't it?" And then West ends up taking Jenny and putting her up close to the window and saying, "Rick, Rick, Rick, you just won't die. You think she's gonna love you now? You're a freak, a sideshow freak." And then Rick's like, "Okay, it's done having fun. You touch her one more time." And then Henry West ends up saying, "Oh, Rick, you revel in flesh, you revel in death. We will see each other again." And then he opens up another portal. This thing goes by portals, and it ends up transporting you to Dandyland. It's a dark carnival, pretty much. And you've got all these rides, like a roller coaster. You've got all these fun and games. Like, if anybody's ever been to a carnival, there's this thing you can do, like throwing balls into holes. Like, the further the ball gets, the more tickets you win. Well, this one, you throw the monsters onto the spikes, and for each spike you get a certain weapon that open. The doors open up and you get a certain weapon, like a baseball bat or a 2x4. And if you manage to get all the spikes with the monsters, there's 3 spikes, 1 spike each. And if you can get all 3 spikes, pretty much impaling the monsters, you get a dirty picture of Jen. In pretty much there's 4 pieces of pictures within each level. If you can find them all, you end up unlocking like a dirty picture of Jen to see in the photo gallery, and it's got little commentary trinkets with it. So yeah, got that for the 14-year-old boys out there who love their nudity. And so there's that, and we end up fighting these new types of demons that look like clowns. And don't know if you can see it, but it's right there where my finger is pointing. A killer demon clown. Yeah. And there's even a part in the level where the mask is like, "Ah, I have never met a clown that I didn't want to beat the living fuck out of." And we ended up meeting a giant another giant demon, probably the most giant of all next to the final boss. Spoiler alert. This boss is not really a boss, but monster is huge. It's got a giant ass, and it looks almost like a donkey a little bit if a donkey was smushed into a blender and mixed with another giant demon and they got morphed together. And it's pretty much something you have to see for yourself. And the splatter kill is amazing. He pretty much fists the monster's ass, pulls the tentacle out of its ass, and then the mask ends up going, gooey. And sometimes he says to Rick, after seeing you work that, I assume you must spend a whole lot of lonely nights on the internet. And I'm just cracking up laughing like, what is this mask gonna say next? And so we get into another one of my favorite levels. Stage 8, Reflections in Blood. This gives you a hint of what you're going to be versing. Mirror Rick. If anybody remembers how hard the Hall of Mirrors was in that game, the first game, you're going to have a blast dealing with the mirrors in this game because you're going to have to verse Mirror Jenny. And you got to figure out which one is the right path, because if you mess up at one point, and there's a time limit, by the way, if you mess up at one point, a bunch of Jennies end up coming after you, and you gotta keep on fighting them off, and then you end up getting the right path unlocked by default. And you gotta keep on doing that 3 times total, and then you make it to a roller coaster, and there's 3 choices of weapons: a 2x4, a baseball bat, and a chainsaw. I always go for the chainsaw. And what you'll want to do is when the eyeballs pop up, you'll want to get to the one, like, let's say you pick the one in the center, which would be the chainsaw. You'd want to do the one on the right. I think it might be randomized, but I always go for the one in the center and then go for the one on the right. It will open up the door on the left, and you're free to go. And that's how you'll end up going into another House of Mirrors, and this time you're going side-scrolling wise, and you end up going near mirror, and it looks like it's a dead end, or so Rick thinks. He ends up turning back around, and the mask says, we must have to double back. And pretty much the mirror Rick pulls Rick and the mask into the mirror, and then Rick's like, oh, where are we? It's so cold. And the mask is like, we're on the dark side of the mirror. And then you hear this deep, groaning voice that goes, Rick, oh, Rick. And then you have to fight a bunch of mirror Ricks, and then you end up having to verse a giant mirror Rick that is pretty much the beast mode of Rick. And it's got a red mask, and I'm like, that is badass looking, but I gotta keep on running and trying to figure out a way to fuck this thing up. And finally you end up fucking it up. And the whole time it's playing all this cool heavy metal music, and the final song that it's playing while you're fighting Beast Mode Mirror Rick, ends up being Dying Breed by Five Finger Death Punch. And I'm just like, badass song. So anyways, we get to phase 9. I think it's called The Ruined Heart. Phase 9, we're back in the mansion, but it's all crumbled. There's blood all over the place. There's pretty much organs, like literally organs from demonizing, blocking your way, and you have to go up the staircase, and then you end up falling down a floor, and this house is ruined, and I like it. It's cool looking. And we end up falling down a hole, and you go through another side-scrolling part, and you end up having to fight black versions of the giant monsters you already fought. Like, you have to verse a black monster of a black monster version of that. And then you also have to verse a Tetra demon that's also black. And you have to verse exploding spiked demons too. And I'm like, wow, it's just an orgy of blood and violence. Oh my god, the Christians are hating this. Well, Gorehounds, you get what you paid for. A game called Splatterhouse, and it lives up to that. And then comes Phase 10, The Wicker Bride. And this mission doesn't have a boss. It's just a time limit where you have to get from one point to the next and one portal to the next, and you eventually get to a giant wicker scarecrow thing, and you've got to climb up it and grab. You think it's Jenny, but it's actually West's wife. And you grab her, and it turns out to be one of those mirror Jennies. And it ends up attacking, and you gotta do like a quick time event, and you gotta stomp on it, and then you move on to Phase 11, and we're getting so close. One more level after this. Excuse me. And it's pretty much the end of the world. All of the buildings happen to have been tampered with. Buildings are being condemned. Well, not really condemned, but destroyed. Like, all hell has pretty much broken loose. And right there is Henry West talking to you about, I'm going to give a gift to the humans, to all mankind. And then he starts talking about, we both have a similar goal. We both want the woman we love. And he's talking about Jenny. And so, further into the level, we get a side-scrolling part, and then this level is pretty lengthy. We end up getting to a temple, another ruined temple, but this one is huge. And Henry West ends up looking right down below Rick, and then while Henry West is talking, you gotta verse the Mirror Ricks again. 2 of them. And they both turn into beast mode. And then after that, Henry West is like, I will. He says something like, I will have Jenny. And Lenora, his dead wife, and Rick ends up saying, yeah, well, fuck you. And I'm like, yeah, Rick, go get your girl. And then it moves on to Phase 12. Devil Made Flesh. People complained about it's just a barrage of all the monsters you already versed, like all the weak monsters, and you just gotta keep on protecting Jenny until the giant monster gets so close, it's gonna try and step on you, and what you'll want to do is turn into beast mode, Rick, and then keep on mashing that X button, and then it will fall down, and then do some quick time events, and then you get the ending. And I am gonna spoil the ending. So for those who haven't beaten the game yet, skip to maybe 5 minutes later or something, 3 minutes later, because here's what happens. Um, the demons are all killed. The corrupted monster is down for the count, and Henry lost his arm, and because Rick ends up having pretty much ripped off Henry's hand, and uh, the soul of one of the souls from the corrupted ends up going and possessing Jenny, and that leads up into what was hopefully going to be Splatterhouse 2, but it never happened because this game sold poorly, and I'm like, why is it that Call of Duty, yes, I'm referencing Call of Duty, why is it that Call of Duty gets a new game every year, 2 games every year, and yet we can't get a sequel to Splatterhouse, a really great game that strived to be the best it could be out of beat 'em up, and it gets thrown to the side. We get something like Dragon's Dogma, I think it's called, which I heard is an alright game, but it doesn't look like anything I'd be interested in. We get uh, Sonic, Sonic games, which I don't mind Sonic, I really don't mind him, but I think Splatterhouse is better. Both the original trilogy and the remake are better than the new Sonic games that have come out recently. And I'm like, uh, first we end up getting a remake of Devil May Cry announced, which I did review that. It was a decent game, I liked it. But Splatterhouse 2010 is better. So, what do I give Splatterhouse 2010? Again, my point range is not going to change. It gets a solid 10 out of 10 for me. The story was great. The monsters were excellent. The gore was, it was out of this world. And just the overall voice acting and everything by everybody was great. The guy who played Rick, Josh Keaton is his name, he did a terrific job. He served emotion, he served anger, he had all these different arrays of emotions: sadness, anger, joy, and the mask was excellent. Jim Cummings, you did a terrific job, and I hope Namco, please, make another Splatterhouse. Stupid term. Make another Splatterhouse, please. We we need this. And if it goes to next gen, I'll pick it up on the PS4. I'll pick it up on the Xbox One. If it's an Xbox One exclusive, which I hope it's not, if they do decide to make a sequel, please let it be for all systems, including PC. Don't leave the PC players out. Like the computer game is not the politically correct people. But anyways, 10 out of 10. Hopefully you will enjoy my lengthy review over Splatterhouse 2010. This is Psychopath1c signing off. If you stayed with me through all of this video, thank you. This is Psychopath1c signing off. Catch you later. Peace.